course, already crowned champions. Real Madrid guaranteed a Champions League spot next season. So as we welcome Sid Lowe to the show, as we take a look at the SBI, Sid, Barca favourites 50%, Real Madrid 30%. Barca, this is a weird game, isn't it? Because for a Clásico, it just feels very, very underwhelming.
It does, and it's true that some of the build-up that you normally have for the Clásico just hasn't happened this week because, of course, the focus has been on Real Madrid's Champions League semi-final instead. But I think when the game comes around, it will still feel like a big deal, and I think it matters to both teams in terms of this kind of eternal and ever so slightly tedious debate about whose season has been better. And that's been going on all the way through the last 2 or 3 weeks, basically since Barcelona were knocked out of the Champions League. And in that kind of debate about, is a double better than a Champions League? Is a Champions League better than a double? And in a way, I mean, first of all, it kind of doesn't matter. But of course, emotionally, it does matter for both sets of fans. There's no doubt about it. It matters to Barcelona fans if Real Madrid win the Champions League. Real Madrid fans believe that they can kind of ride through Barcelona's double if they win the Champions League, not least because it would be a third in a row. I mean, it doesn't make that double any less because Madrid win the Champions League, but it will make it feel like this. So I think what this game does is it offers Real Madrid the chance to beat Barcelona and say, you see, we're better than them, even if they won the league, and now we're going to win the European Cup. And by the way, at the same time, of course, deny Barcelona the chance to have a season in which they win the league without losing a single league game, which would be historic. From Barcelona's point of view, the complete opposite is true. The chance to beat Real Madrid and win the league and not being beaten at all in the league is their way of saying, well, look, the European Cup, weird things happen.
Before I ask you who's had the better season, Sid,
have a think about that.
Please don't ask me that.
It's going to happen.
Have a think about what you just said. I'm going to ask you to repeat that in a minute.
Right, I understand.
We have discussed
You are going to ask me as well, aren't you? I can see it coming.
Well, we've had that. We've had this discussion on the show.
Yeah, of
well, I don't know if
course.
it was much of a discussion, but we had a chat about it. So, did Real Madrid beat them there earlier in the season, didn't they, in the Cup?
In the Spanish Cup.
In the Spanish Cup as well. So I suppose
in the Super Cup.
Super Cup, yeah.
In the Spanish Super Cup, yeah, but not once the kind of, obviously the Spanish Super Cup, their equivalent of the Charity Shield. So once the kind of the season proper, if you like, gets underway, Real Madrid haven't beaten Barcelona.
Yeah, but they're counting that, aren't they?
Oh, they will be.
Oh, absolutely. Of course, yeah.
I understand fans' perspective. Fans, you know, want bragging rights. Well, we've done this, that. From a player's point of view, like, how much do you genuinely care about breaking this unbeaten record?
I think now that it's there, and it's there to be broken, yes. Now it matters. The league's won, that's all wrapped up and tied in a nice little bow.
From a Real Madrid perspective, if you're in that Real Madrid locker room, is everyone going, right, let's do it?
Absolutely. You want to deny Barcelona every opportunity to celebrate as you can. The league's won, the cup's won, there's nothing you can do at this point. If you can take away that writing of history for Barcelona, yes. Absolutely. And you know full well that you're on the cusp of writing history yourself in the Champions League with the third in a row. So I think in that respect, it matters to Real Madrid players.
You're in the Champions League final, again, going for a treble. You're in your enemy's or rival's backyard, and you can put a stop to it whilst winning the derby as well. So from that perspective, it is absolutely there to play for. I don't think because the league title's over and blah, 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 I don't think we're going to see any less intensity in this game.
Right.
I think that people that watched it a lot longer than me will maybe be able to correct me, but I think historically there's always, I mean, there's been some bad games, but I think that animosity, that intensity is always going to be there in this fixture.
I think there's a book maybe that's been written about the animosity and the history between these two. Like, I can't remember who the author was.
The thing is, though, with these two, and what we've seen over recent weeks is, regardless of what it is, regardless of how petty it may be, everything is an issue. And this guard of honor thing that's been going on kind of highlights exactly how petty these two can be when it comes to each other.
The guard of honour, of course. Real Madrid not going to do it, Sid. Obviously, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but they won't do it because they didn't do it for them after the Club World Cup. Is that right?
Well, that's part of the rationale. Although, actually, in fairness, no one at Real Madrid has said that. No one has said, we're not doing it because they didn't. They've just said, we're not doing it. And Zidane, in this sense, ended this brilliantly because he came out in a press conference and said, we're not doing it. End of story. My decision. It's over.
Right.
And for about a day, people stopped talking about it.
Oh, but then they brought it back up. Like said, who has had the better season? But in all seriousness, you spent a lot of time in Madrid and a lot of time in Catalonia. Who's more jealous of who?
I mean, look, it is true, I think, that there is a sense domestically in Spain that, look, one of these two teams should win the league and one of these two teams should win the cup. And so, therefore, that title doesn't feel like quite the huge thing that the Champions League feels like. And it's not just that Barcelona aren't going to win the Champions League, it's the way they were knocked out and then, of course, watching Real Madrid go on to do it. I think if Madrid were to win the Champions League, I think it would feel like their season was bigger and more historic. But in terms of, if you like, the kind of the merit of it, perhaps winning I don't know. Maybe the double is better in terms of the merit of it. But the Champions League, there's no doubt it's bigger. And people often say, you know, well, why is the Champions League bigger than La Liga? They both play in La Liga. Well, in a way, it's something very simple, isn't it? This is a scale. Spain is a country, Europe is a continent. And so by definition, the continental tournament is bigger.
Brighton guaranteed a Premier League football next season. Despite that defeat, Manchester United will finish, well, more than likely finish second this season. Obviously, we can't really read too much into this game, can we?
I know, and hopefully we're not going to. Well, I think the only thing is look, you know, United FA Cup final at the end of the season against Chelsea. Be a fitting tribute for, I think, Ray Wilkins.
Yep.
I think they're planning that as well, so that's nice. They're looking forward to that. They are going to finish second, but it's what they're going to do next year. Who are they going to sign? Are things going to improve? Can they catch City? All these questions are going to be answered over the summer. I'm sure Mourinho will have some moans about trying to bring players in, and I'm not getting this player, and I'm not getting that, and we'll have all these storylines. As for Brighton, I just think Chris Hughton, for me, is one of those guys who's been at several clubs and always done a good job. And to keep Brighton in and to finish probably around mid-table is just an amazing job coming up from the Championship.
Word on this, Shaq, from a United perspective, big deal or not?
No, it's not a big deal at all. Their season will be defined. I still feel they finish second. Their season will be defined by the FA Cup.
Liverpool's recent poor run in the league means that it does take a little bit of an extra twist. Chelsea underdogs, in fact, despite the fact it's at the bridge, according to the SPI, 35% to get the win. Of course, that would close the gap on Liverpool with regards to Champions League football. Currently, it is 5 points that separate the two, but Chelsea do have a game in hand. So for Liverpool, it's all about, I suppose, that final game against Brighton. If they can get something from that, they're fine.
Well, I mean, obviously they win at the weekend.
Oh, of course.
Right, that's it. But I think that's why Klopp was so animated in the last league game at home against Stoke City. You know, and obviously there was the incident where he didn't shake two of the officials' hands, where he thought he had a penalty, because he knew that, or he knows it could be close, depending if that result goes against him. He's got to shake down his team after the hard game in Rome. Could be some injuries, and he's got to protect for the end of the season as well. So it's quite a difficult juggling act for the Liverpool manager.
As much as a juggling act, Klopp also knows that you can't switch good form on and off. You can't just focus on the Champions League and then put in half-hearted performances in the league. And that's a concern to keep the team ticking over at the very least. Quite clear this is a game that Chelsea have to win, but you look at Chelsea, despite the run of good form of late, still, dating back to November, they've got only a couple draws against Arsenal to show in terms of results against top 6 teams. I think Liverpool go and get the result at the bridge.
I don't think Chelsea get in the top 4 now. I would be surprised.
If you missed the last couple of shows, it's been quite interesting regarding Roma. After their exit in the Champions League to Liverpool, Roma fans, the Roma president, the Roma Twitter account, not happy with comments made on this show regarding the way in which they went out. I imagine, Craig, your Twitter notifications has been as busy as the rest
as you know,
of
I was off yesterday, because I'm normally off, and usually off on a Thursday. There was no conspiracy of why I wasn't hiding from anybody. I wasn't hiding from anybody, like quaking in my boots, not wanting to come on. But I saw you the show yesterday, and you boys went at it. Shaka, you, Stevie, Gab. It's quite incredible, really. I mean, the whinging and crying from the Italian perspective at the moment is quite scary. If there was a World Cup for this summer, they'd win it. the Italians would win the whinging and crying and moaning World Cup. And that's another thing. They're not even going to the World Cup, right? Are they blaming, who are they blaming for that? Who are the Italians blaming for little old Sweden, who are workmanlike and pretty mediocre, knocking them out? Is that UEFA's fault? Is that VAR's fault? It's not even a month, Daniel, since we sat here and even Buffon's biggest fan, Xhaka, couldn't defend him when Juve moaned and groaned about the decision at the end of the game where Michael Oliver rightly gave a penalty and rightly sent off Gianluigi Buffon. What the hell would VAR made a difference from that? And now we move ahead to Roma, right? And in all the talk about VAR and decisions, and there were some bad decisions in the game in Rome that went against Rome for sure. 2 or 3 went against Liverpool on that night as well. Florenzi should have been sent off. Mane should have had a penalty in the first 15 minutes. The Clavan penalty at the end was never a penalty. So there was decisions that went against them. But we are forgetting here that they were abysmal. They're not out of this competition because of the referee in Rome. They're out because they were abysmal, atrocious at Anfield. They were 5-0 down, and we were sitting watching the game, scratching our heads going, how's this not 8? Every time Liverpool got the ball, they looked like they were going to score a goal. If Mane had his boots in the right foot, it would have been 8. So if they're going to blame anybody, they have to look at the coach and they've got to look at their players for the performance they put on at Anfield. It was atrocious, and that's why they went out.
But Roma supporters would say to you, in defence of that, saying, yeah, but we deserve some credit. Look, we were down and out, and we fought back. We were 1 goal away from forcing extra time. We deserve credit for that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll say, maybe in saying, well, they're not that good. Maybe they've got some good players. Dzeko, I think, being the best. They've got some good players. But you're not that good a team if you are getting such a whipping at Anfield that it could have been 7 or 8, right? You're just not. In the last 4, they were the worst of the best teams. That's what they were. They were the weakest team in the last 4, and that is why they're out. Now, I understand they're frustrated. I understand the owner's frustrated, the manager, the players, the fans. I get it. But look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is you had to go away from home, like some great old Italian teams have done in the past, and drag out a result. They got smashed, right? They let back in the end, but they got absolutely smashed at Anfield. And that is why they're out. Not a UEFA conspiracy, not a referee's conspiracy. It's nothing against the Italians. They need to wake up over there in Italy and stop trying to blame everybody else. Their teams are out of Europe, their country's not going to the World Cup, and they need to look in before they look out.
Here's the thing for me, and yes, absolutely, Roma deserve an awful lot of credit for this run, more so than anything else. Probably to start the Champions League, people didn't think Roma would get out of the group stage. Nobody expected them to get through against Barcelona, and then come this close against Liverpool. Yet here we are, instead of celebrating Roma pulling up trees as they have, we are discussing whether there's a conspiracy theory against not just Roma, but all Italian clubs. We are discussing whether Pallotta has something against Infantino. And the discussion is now bordering on the absolute ridiculous from a Roma perspective. And they brought this on themselves. And to Craig's point, now I'm wondering if, because Italy aren't in the World Cup, Italian football this season, this year, is being defined by what happens in the Champions League. Hence the reaction of Juventus going out against Real Madrid. Hence the reaction yet again. That can be my only explanation as to why it is bordered on the ridiculous as it has. Because otherwise, regardless of who the team is, regardless of what country they come from, anybody else getting this kind of criticism, I don't think we certainly would have been seeing this kind of backlash. I mean,
this narrative that flies around and it's, I don't know if it's just social media, but you see some of the things that go on in social media in general life, and you think, are people really tweeting these things? And I'm not talking about football. And when you take it into the football sphere, it's kind of just as bad in that kind of scene. But this narrative that oh, there's an EPL bias on the couch here. And yeah, we do talk more about Premier League on here, but it is the league that's watched the most around the world, and it's English speaking. But we also have journalists who cover all the other leagues, and we talk about it. But this narrative that if it was the opposite way round, we would be somewhat arguing for Liverpool. Well, if Liverpool had gone away from home in the first leg and hadn't played and been smashed the way that Roma were, I think we would have been equally, if not more heavily, criticising of Liverpool.
We smashed Spurs for the way they went out against Juventus.
Correct. But it's a narrative. It's not. There's no conspiracy. It's down to you guys.
PSG took on a 2-2 draw against Amiens on a Friday night. 20 points clear they are as it stands over Lyon in second. Of course, already crowned champions. Interesting quotes from Unai Emery talking about Neymar this week, saying, my opinion is that PSG leader is Neymar, or more precisely, will be called Neymar because he is in the process of becoming that. He said he was talking in the past and Barcelona, Lionel Messi's in charge. Real Madrid, Perez is in charge. And at Atleti, it's Simeone who's in charge. And he feels in this process, Neymar will eventually be in charge of PSG.
What the hell is he talking about? Seriously?
Seriously, this is what he said.
The lunatics are running the asylum.
Literally.
Come on, he's already doing what he wants and jaunting off everywhere and back to Brazil to get fit. That's his choice now. But you can't have... And by the way, he's no Lionel Messi, is he?
No.
Not yet.
No.
Probably never. So, I don't know, they need people in there that are strong and that can have an element of control.
Can they, though, Shay? Unai Emery knows he's working to this club, and it seems that he's pretty much saying, look, this is what's going to happen.
Look, on the one hand, you know, maybe it can work. I don't see Neymar as being Lionel Messi, both on the field or off it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a disaster waiting to happen here. And as much as I interpret this as Unai Emery trying to dig himself out of a mess that I think he played a part in creating, spoke very early on with the whole Neymar Cavani thing, and now it's just snowballed. And now Unai Emery, looking for another job, has to kind of separate himself from that mess. And this is his attempt to do it. But yeah, he played a part.
Here's the deal. Whoever comes in, whether it's Tuchel or not, that replaces this guy, here's the deal. You come in, you get him in the room, you say, look, you're clearly the big star. We're going to try and build around you. Are you with me? Are you not? But here's the rules. You train when I want you to train. You rest when I want you to rest. You travel when I want you to travel. And you dig in with your teammates. Now, if you don't want to do any of that, let's discuss you going somewhere else with the owners. Because you're not good to me.
Yeah.
If you're only half-hearted, you're not good to me, you're not good to your teammates.
You need a manager with the personality to be able to do that. And I'm not sure if Thomas Tuchel is that manager. If he has that personality, if he commands that respect in a dressing room. And the fact of the matter is, the managers who can in today's game, I'm not sure that PSG is necessarily going to be their port of call. Because you're going to win the league regardless by 20-odd points, and ultimately you're only judging what happens in Champions League.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that's an attraction for a manager who wants to work day in, day out with their club.
Welcome to Extra Time. Just try and do Extra Time without mentioning Roma, or Roma's angry fans.
Please.
Shall we? Or Gab, or your finger.
Twice you've just mentioned it.
Is this the most dramatic Champions League season you have seen? It's been crazy, hasn't it?
It has been.
It's been good.
I
It's
think
been
so.
bonkers.
When you think of the upsets, the comebacks, yeah, I'm going to say yes to that.
You stand by your comment that the quality is still higher in the World Cup?
Yeah.
It's not a shame.
I certainly stand by my belief that the World Cup is a bigger tournament.
Ah, that's a different conversation.
Aye.
Okay, that's the higher prize. I'll stand by that. Move on.
I'm not picking a fight with you today.
He's all right today.
Eh? I don't know, he's still a bit edgy.
Edgy, yeah.
He's getting involved in Twitter spats, the old...
Not anymore, I'm switching off. You know, I have a question. Can I switch off my notifications on Twitter? Mm-hmm. And, no, I mean, like, I don't even see them.
No, you can switch to, you can, you know this. You can switch to either just verified or people that you follow. And so you'll only see people that you follow.
I don't want to tweet anybody. I don't want anybody to tweet me. I just want to read stories.
All right, then. Well, just don't press the notification button.
I want to switch off the whole thing.
Just don't press the button.
If it's there, I'm going to push the button. Just lights up that little button.
The good news is, when you do press it, is that people are people are not really easily offended, are they?
No? Okay. Well, I'll
It's
try.
the end of the world,
I'll
isn't
try
it?
that.
A game of football.
I don't have that button.
24 hours later, 36 hours later, a week later, it's still there, bubbling along.
I like how somehow you being a rubbish goalkeeper influences
Yeah.
your opinion quite.
Biased against Roma.
Yeah.
It's a rubbish.
Where does Manchester United need to improve so they can mount a challenge for the Premier League next season? They're right goalkeeper. That's fine.
Oh yeah, without question.
Central midfield, absolutely. What he's going to do with Pogba.
Yeah.
I think a real dynamic central midfielder in there that possibly could play alongside Matic, but get forward and just be dynamic and allow Pogba some different roles.
How big would you go for Bale if you were United in the summer?
If I was convinced that he wasn't any long-term injury issues, because he has had some, then absolutely. Because the one thing that they lack to their game at times, and they shouldn't really, because they have got quick players, is pace. They, in my opinion, could do with injecting more pace into the game in general. And it's surprising to say that because, you know, Rashford's quick, Martial's quick, Lingard's quite quick, Lukaku's, you know, quite quick. So they have got the pacey players, but I do think if they get a Bale and Mourinho gets on the front foot more, that will help them.
I mean, I'm tempted to agree with you in that when you see United play, you just feel
I'm tempted.
No, my point is when you see United, when you see United play, you're tempted to.
Just say that when you go home and the kids.
Let me finish my thought.
Hold on,
This is where it all started to go wrong yesterday.
One of your 16 kids runs in. All right, 5. You got a few, and they go like that. Not today. Not today. Not. And then you get to the wife and you go.
I know.
No, I'll stop there, yeah.
But he goes all Caribbean as well when he gets angry, doesn't he?
I was saying something.
Sorry.
Right, don't interrupt me. That's how it started on Ramble yesterday.
So you partly agreed with me.
Right, no, what I'm saying, when you see United play, you think they don't play at any pace. But then you look at the players, they all have pace. And I think is a conflict of personalities between what you expect from United and what Jose Mourinho gives you.
If United win the FA Cup and finish second in the league, has this been a successful second season for Mourinho?
It's been.
I say yes.
It's been okay, yeah. It's been okay. Again, I mean, we can talk about Barcelona going out to Roma and this. The man. I know it wasn't like a 3, but going out to Sevilla was, you know.
Yeah.
But still, you get silverware.
You finish second, you get decent amount of points, and you win the FA Cup. But next season, that's the difference.
Who would have had a better season between Manchester City and Liverpool if Liverpool go on to win the Champions League?
We had this discussion the other day.
Oh, I was involved in that, I think.
Oh, you should listen to the show when you're not here. City.
Why are you smiling like that?
I'm just looking at his face.
Well, City's season, I mean, it's hard to quantify because most of us picked City at the start of the season to win the league.
Yes.
We didn't think it would be as comfortable and as attractive as it's been. But I think almost everyone to a man picked them, but absolutely nobody. Nobody even put Liverpool in the running for this.
But I still think that the league is your bread and butter, and City winning the league gives them the edge in that regard. But at the same time, you also recognise that there's a shift in that there's a bigger focus, certainly from a fan's perspective, on the Champions League. I think that could have detrimental knock-on effect down the road, but still, for me, being old school, the league.
If it was next season, it would be slightly different, yeah? Would that be right? If say, Manchester City win the league again next season, but Liverpool would win the Champions League, then I think because this is City's first season of doing so, then maybe they would win.
No, I still think. Still think, yeah. Unless you're talking about Liverpool winning the Champions League back-to-back.
City have been incredible this year. I mean, they have domestically as well. Played some great stuff. And no, I'm not paid by Man City, as somebody suggested last night.
I saw that.
Did someone say that?
Yeah, somebody said.
So, are you paid by Manchester City to talk good about them and bleep about Manchester United?
Oh yes, you gotta love that one. Yeah, it's like the De Bruyne Pogba.
Yeah, I'm not paid by them, but you know, I could send my address if they want to send a cheque. Every little helps.
That is it. We are done. ESPN FC, just a reminder, with you Tuesday to Friday. Some big news next week. Be sure to check us out on our new exclusive home on ESPN+. Time now for a bit of best of the week.
Ooh.
In the 8 years I've worked with Shaka, he's never brought notes. Today, notes.
We don't get to go home?
No, we get
great.
to jibber jabber, which was someone's complaint on Twitter. Wasn't there a toy which was called a jibber jabber?
Why are you
You used to shake it and it go jibber jabber, jibber jabber, jibber jabber. Like that.
I think that's just you, Dan.
I have a friend.
Oh, good, Dan.
Well done.
I'm pleased for you.
You gotta fix your hair, Gab. It's all over the place, man.
What's wrong with my hair?
Well,
It's absolutely all over the shop.
But nobody mentioned they've gone unbeaten.
Of course
You
they will.
mention it next week, I'll jump next year, I'll be straight down your throat. Do you know how many times I talk about the Invincibles?
Many times.
Nothing.
Many
None.
times.
People all they want to do is hark back.
So we can't talk about history at all. What? Ali Moreno's just walked in.
What kind of part-time thing is this? You can't just show up for extra time.
Ah, you haven't got a mic on, so
Form substitution.
You'd have to use visuals.
That's better.
Oh, yeah!
Hey! All those teams that we're talking about, all of them, they're terrible.
Yeah.
They are absolutely incredibly terrible.
He's get on the phone. Give them some motivational
Hey, guys.
speaking now.
You are terrible.
I think I'm going to write a little message to Eleanor. Will you marry me?
Top chest you've got on. Is that an extra small you've got on there? You wouldn't be able to see it on his muscles. You'd be like tiny wee, right? What are you doing making that face for, Gab? You have to make something. Every time I say something, you totally disagree with me. I mean, I've upset you.
You upset me. He's always looking young like Superman.
Oh.
I like that a lot.
Don't sit there and play the Barcelona card. Oh, this is great Barcelona. I love Barcelona, because you absolutely milled them at the start of this season. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, Barcelona, how great.
When the glasses come out.
It's about the extra gear back there. We'll be looking back at those comments that seemed to cause such a hullabaloo from yesterday's show. The Roma fans.
Shakas, I'm sorry. This is what annoys people, right? It's Liverpool letting them back in because Roma are a bunch of stiffs. As Ali said the other night, they're no good at anything.
Don't go there with me. Not today, Gab.
It has been a feisty old day in the studio, which included the Shaka Go to Gab, not today.
He did do that.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. He did
That's a show. That's your interpretation.
definitely with that.
No, not at all.
You should have done that at the end.
Oh, man.
Not today, Gab.
I had a bad day.
You've got that, Gab.
I had a bad day yesterday.
Well, listen.
Hey, that's all right. He's proud of you.